Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brogan, if you're confirmed, you'd be in charge of enforcing the nation's K-12 laws at the Education Department, including the Every Student Succeeds Act. Now, I fought hard in that law to make sure that federal election dollars go to the schools and the students who need them most. And I also fought for bipartisan data transparency provisions that would help us better understand how schools are serving all kids and to understand which students need more help and more resources. I share the ranking member's concerns about Secretary DeVos ignoring parts of the law. And so I want to start by asking about your commitment to enforcing the law. So I just want to focus on the data issue. The law requires states and districts to separate data on how students are learning by specific groups of students, like African American students or students with special needs, and for states to include these data in how they figure out which schools need more money and more support. But a bunch of states just are not doing this. They are flat out ignoring the law right now, and Secretary DeVos is letting them do that. So what I want to know is, if confirmed, will you commit to make sure that every state follows this provision in the law and uses these critical data to figure out which schools need more federal dollars?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, in direct answer to your question, I am a huge believer in data.
Good.
I am not a data geek, but I know what data is capable of doing.
Good.
And in this particular case, the good news here is the department is working hard, and I've actually been involved in this part of the process since my arrival not long ago in helping to recreate how we can generate better data going forward and make sure that it is evidence-based when we talk about changes or alterations or program opportunities through best practice. And that's one of the very exciting reasons I decided to ask for this nomination.
Good. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your unambiguous confirmation that we're going to follow the law in reporting these data. We're going to get these data and make sure these data are properly used. I want to ask you about something else, too. I want to ask you about charter schools. Boston's public charter schools are among the best performing charter schools in the nation, and that is particularly true for low-income children and children of color. And I am very proud of the hard work that educators in those schools are doing to deliver a great education for our kids. But I also think there's a lot to be learned from why the Boston charter schools, Boston's charter schools, why they do so well. So can I just start by asking you, what's your view of why those schools do so well in delivering education for their children?
Thank you, Senator. I was actually Commissioner of Education in Florida when Florida passed its first charter school bill. Gosh, it's a long time ago, 1996, I think, as memory serves. And why that was an important move to make. And there were many reasons, but one of them was the ability not only to see children and families have a different choice if they chose to make it, but very importantly, what would be the difference in the charter school and what could we learn from it as it was worked around the boys and girls who called that charter school home. And I think if you look nationally, that really is one of the most common answers you receive about why charter schools, not just great places for boys and girls, as you mentioned in Boston, but also the opportunity to observe what changes are taking place, and then hopefully, and that's my excitement, is ultimately through great data and research determine what those practices have meant to the success of those boys and girls.
Let me push back just a little bit here, Mr. Brogan, because what I'm talking about here is Massachusetts charter schools. These Boston charter schools are doing better than charter schools in other parts of the country. And that's what, to me, makes it the interesting question. Mm-hmm. And I just want to point out some things. In Massachusetts, only the state grants new charters. They don't let anyone else do it. We cap the number of charter schools to keep them from ballooning out of control and crippling the district finances. We don't allow for-profit companies to run charter schools. We hold charter schools accountable for delivering a good education for all of our kids through very aggressive oversight. We shut down charter schools if they're failing our kids. I believe that the evidence is clear that more oversight and more accountability works for our kids. I'm out of time, so I'm going to stop, but I will ask you in the follow-up questions for a commitment that what we're going to get is we're going to get to encourage the states to strengthen their oversight of charter schools, not to weaken their oversight of charter schools, so we can guarantee they deliver a top-notch education for our kids. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.